What's up guys, it's your girl Blaque from Kulture. This is part 2 of the following video. Last one was talking in particular about cosplayers. This one is talking about the alt community as an alternative fashion community, or anybody who's into alternative fashion. Because we fail to realize that the alternative fashion community, especially the Harajuku scene, is pretty much simultaneously aligned with our popular nerd culture, especially because otaku culture and things revolving around anime and things that came from Japan are so super important, right? Important to our nerd culture. To leave out the alt community in this deep dive into our nerd community would not be right. For any of you who are not familiar with alternative fashion, just as a basis, alternative fashion is essentially fashion that's not normal to our traditional styles. So you're talking about your goth, any of your Harajuku street styles like Lolita or Decora fashion. I will try to leave some links to some of those people. I also will be mentioning a couple of alternative people in this video, so I will try to leave all their links in the description of this video so you know exactly what I'm talking about. What I've noticed inside the alt part of the community is this air of fake wokeness. Like, that's the only way to say it, because the alternative community is one of those communities where you often see a lot of people outcast and ostracized by the major part of our normal society, our larger culture. They're often casted off to the side because you look weird and you dress weird and you wear your hair in funky ways and you wear chains and chokers and all these weird colors. Like, they already feel this bit of segregation from our larger community. It is normally the alt community that's speaking out in regards to LGBTQ issues, and also it's typically the alt community that I see always speaking out against any injustices. So to see alt communities, and I'm a part of a couple of different ones on Facebook, to see some of the people in these alt communities either being A, bone dry quiet, or B, they mention it in like a haphazard way. I just find that really, really hilarious. Like, one of the ones I saw, and I know that since it has been slightly altered, was Killstar. They're a very popular alt brand. They sell primarily goth clothing. Oh gosh, her name escapes me. I will find her page and it will be in the link here. But they featured a black alt model in a lacy kind of like bralette and panty set, and they essentially were like, oh, times are tough, but get your panties here. Like this, are you trying to capitalize on black people right now? Are you really trying to capitalize on the movement of black people going on by posting a black model, when 9 times out of 10 the models that you post on your page are fair-skinned or white people? So this one time you posted one black model, are you out of your brain cells? You clearly are, because that was so inappropriate. And then they go and change it, like, we never meant to hurt your feelings, we never meant to make anyone feel uncomfortable. But the fact that you even had the lack of understanding of the situation to even post something like that, I tell you. Another thing I've seen is people just outright attacking alt women or alt men in the community, going out into these protests in their normal clothing. There was 2 that I saw. The other one I can't think of right now. I'll try to post it in the description when I'm editing this. But Dolly Momoriro, she is an amazingly talented and beautiful alt woman. She posts a lot of really cool creative videos. But one of the posts I saw on her story yesterday was her going to a protest in her normal fashion. She was wearing a seifuku, looked like some platform boobs, a mask, the whole 9, just what you normally would typically see in in old fashion and a normal outfit or cord that you would see in old fashion. And then someone the next day was like, that was extremely performative of you to go out to a protest like that. Performative? Excuse me? What's performative about me dressing in my normal clothes? Also going back to the fact that, you know, who are you to tell me as a Black person what my experience should be like? Because at the end of the day, I'll say it time and time again, Blackness is the great equalizer. It's the one thing that constantly equivocates Black people. So it doesn't matter if she's an alt girl or she dresses in an alternative style. The fact that she's Black still puts her at risk of the same injustices and the same brutality that every other Black person experiences. And that don't change. So for you to call anyone performative, or you to call it try to call anybody out for dressing in their normal style going to protest, that's really, really, really ridiculous of you. Or ridiculous of anyone who tries to do that, because that's not the case. Another thing I saw, and I've seen this by a couple of different Black people, and this is not to call out Japan, or maybe it is, because I've seen it happen more than one time, even before the situation arose to where it is. We as a culture, a global culture, we exchange a lot of information. We exchange a lot of culture information, styles, ideas, just everything. We're highly influenced by each other. In fact, one of our music, our ideals, there's a huge intersection, especially between the Japanese community and the Asian communities and the Black community. There's almost synonymousness to it that we see constantly in our culture, from movies to our music. Even the whole chill pop / lo-fi aesthetic is based on lo-fi hip-hop music, which has bases in jazz, hip-hop, aesthetics that come behind it, which is anime, Samurai Champloo, Toonami. All of that stuff has its roots in Afrocentrism, as well as the aesthetics that come from anime and the things that come from Japan. So for Japanese people and for Japan as a country not to acknowledge or to still perpetuate some of those stereotypes, because there are places in Japan you, as a Black person, you still may be stereotyped, you still might not be able to allow to come in. And if you want proof of that, I will go on YouTube and watch Black vloggers. They talk about it quite frequently. We're a global community, just as you consume what we put out, you should be able to understand, like, you're cognizant enough to understand what's going on, even if you don't understand the full situation, as in, the 400 years of slavery and the systematic oppression. You may not get that aspect of it, but you gotta understand. You can see the videos, you can see the images. That stuff is not exclusive to the States. Most of the content that's viewable can be viewed anywhere. So I cannot give anyone, no matter what your culture is, a pass on the fact that you decide to stay blissfully ignorant, even if your population, even if you and your group of friends may not reflect a large population of Black people. If you benefit in any way, or who cares if you benefit? If you're noticing that anybody's experiencing an injustice, why do you feel it's not okay to speak out? And I give Frokyo a lot of props, because I see them out there protesting Black Lives Matter, and that is a powerful statement, especially in down Harajuku, where you can see, and again, everything I'm speaking of, you can, if you Google or if you follow the hashtag Harajuku fashion and you're looking at the fashion on Harajuku, they adopted African American street style. It's literally called, it has its own name, it's B style in Japan. They also adopted kind of a Y2K style, box braids and wearing dreads and wearing big puff afros. So again, the influence of our culture is clearly shown in theirs. It's clearly shown all across the world. So even across the way, there's no excuse. And for back here in the States, in the alternative community, if you're seeing Black people dressed in Decora, Lolita, Gothic fashion, there's so many different fashions substyles, it's escaping me. But if you're seeing people in these fashion substyles, they're not being performative, they're not being extra, they're being themselves. And you cannot cherry pick which type of Black people you want to support. And you can't cherry pick what kind of Black people deserve to be supported by the Black Lives Matter Black Lives Matter movement. All of our lives, all of the Black lives, no matter how they decide to live their lives, are important and they deserve to be supported. In closing of this part, the alt community and the greater communities that are behind those alt communities, y'all got to do better. We lean on our alternative Facebook communities. We lean on our alternative communities here on Instagram. Another person I want to shout out is Lovely Lore. She is also a really popular Lolita. She makes a lot of wonderful Lolita content. She's been very active in her stories about the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that's going on here in the States. And she is in Canada. So there's no excuse. No excuses. All of our lives matter, no matter how we dress them up, no matter how we decide to live them. You cannot cherry pick our lives, just like you can't cherry pick the injustices you choose to fall. Alternative community, I see it all the time. Sometimes y'all folk be really fake woke. Stop that. That's ridiculous. It's unnecessary. And yeah.